if we were to be asked what is the essence of the message of Islam, I would venture this as the answer. Using the Quranic verse 30 of chapter number 30, and it's a verse that will come in the slides at a point when we're talking now about the two mothers of revelation, of Mary and Fatima. And this verse that answers the question for us as to what is the essence of Islam, the religion. And I don't mean simply this well-known distinction between Islam, the formal religion that was inaugurated by the Quran through Muhammad in the 7th century in Arabia, as opposed to Islam, the meaning of the word, which is making peace through surrender to God. So you become at peace. That's the normal way in which people go from a kind of outward view of Islam as a formal dogmatic faith to a universal spiritual quality. It's the transition from Islam, the religion, to Islam, the meaning, which is making peace through submission to God. The literal meaning is submission, but also is related to the word for peace. So, if I'd be asked that question, what is the essence of Islam? I wouldn't dare to give an answer from myself. I would just say, well, let's see what the Quran says. And I would choose this verse to answer the question. Verse 30 of chapter number 30. Very easy to remember. It's also the chapter entitled Ar-Rum, which is all about the Byzantine, which refers to the Byzantine Christian Empire. And in verse 30, it says, فَأَقِمْ. Now the reason I'm going into Arabic is not to show off, astaghfirullah. It's because I don't know these verses off by heart in English. I have to go into the Arabic, where I remember them off by heart, and then I can remember the English. So it says, فَأَقِمْ وَجْهَكَ لِلدِّينِ حَنِيفًا. So orient your essence, your face, your purpose to religion, لِلدِّينِ Hanifa, as one who is a Hanif. Now who is the Hanif? Hay. Who is the Hanif par excellence? Abraham. Abraham is the Hanif. Abraham is the person referred to as the Hanif, the one who is ever inclined towards the transcendent reality, always swerving, literally, away from falsehood and idolatry and towards the one true God. So Abraham is the Hanif. So the Quran says, turn your whole purpose to religion. Attune yourself, orient yourself towards religion. Doesn't say which one, it just says lideen, to the religion as such. As one who is by nature upright like Abraham. Fitrat Allah. Now you're told, what is this religion? It's the fitrah of Allah. The creation, the original creation of God. التي فطر الناس عليها. That pattern, that original creative seed or pattern or paradigm or quintessence, according to which God created every human being. All human beings are created according to this thing called the fitrah of Allah, the creation, the pattern, the primordial nature, established by God, but also esoterically, it can mean the actual nature of God, according to the very nature of God. So we're coming very close here to the Genesis idea of God making man in his image and likeness. But this fitrah is even more, if you like, esoterically suggestive, because it relates directly to one of the names of God, Al-Fatir. Fatara samawati wal ard. One of God's names is the creator. There are many names for God as regards creation. Al-Khaliq, the creator, is the most normal one. Al-Bari, Al-Badi', Al-Fatir. Al-Fatir is the one who creates by making cleavage, literally, by splitting two things. It's the root meaning in the Arabic is something like that. Cleaving something apart and creating something out of it. I'm the one who created this well. I'm the one who dug it. You would use in Arabic. So I'm the one who's the creator. I dug it, and out of it came this water. So that's the kind of idea that's in the back of that resonates for the Arabic speaker, one who knows his or her language. The Father is the one who cleaved something out of her absolute nature to create relativity. And that relativity is the pattern, the fitra, that is imprinted on the relative by the absolute, by virtue of this creative act. And that's the fitra. So, fatara nasa, all of human beings are created according to this primordial pattern that goes back to the very nature of the divine order, the creator. There is no change in this creation of God. That is the eternally established religion. The deen that is always there, has always been there, will always be there. It's not a religion that changes from time and space, in time and space. That is the true, eternally subsistent religion, but the majority of human beings simply don't know that this is religion as such. Not such and such a religion, it's the religion of the heart, the religion of the fitra. And this is what I propose in the talk. Mary and Fatima help us to taking away the temptation. It's very appropriate that Bishop Anthony should take that glass of water and put it in the opposite end of the room. This is the answer to an implicit prayer I may have had. Lord, lead us not into temptation. So, where were we? Yes, so Mary and Fatima, as mothers of revelation, are leading us to the religion of the heart. They're leading us to the religion of the fitra. They're leading us to what we are in our inmost reality, and they show us what we are in our inmost reality. So we'll go into the... how long do I have, Peter, before?
Well, our commander at Nicodemus doesn't appear, so you can go on.
Oh.
He's not coming.
Famous last words.
What, he's not coming?
Is he not coming?
Well, it's not
He didn't appear. He didn't appear on that Zoom,
so I think you can just carry on.
All right, thank you.
The floor is open.
So, I've started by asking the question, are we talking about three mothers or one? Is that where we are? Yeah.
I'll slightly shift it.
Actually, I've got my... I can read it.
I can see when you move that.
Oh, that's very kind, thank you. So, here we have the obvious, to begin with the obvious designation of the Blessed Virgin, Mother Mary. Theotokos, Mother of God. We have this second, much less famous designation of Fatima, which is Umm Abiha. The Prophet said to her, you are the mother of her father. Very, very mysterious. How can Muhammad call his daughter his own mother? And that's what he said to her. You are the mother of your own father. And then we have this third, why I'm saying three mothers. We have this equally mysterious designation in the Quran, which is the al-Kitab, the mother of the book. And I prefer this to translate kitab here as revelation. Kitab literally just means that which is written, but here it's obvious that it's what is revealed. The writing is just the outward expression of that which is being revealed by God to humanity. And we have this phrase, this title, the mother of the book, in a verse that we will come to a little bit later. I'll just tell you it now. The Surah al-Zukhruf, golden ornaments, referring to golden ornaments in paradise. Hamim wal-Kitab al-Mubin. Inna ja'alnahu Qur'anan Arabiyyan la'allakum ta'qilun wa innahu fi al-Kitab ladayna la'aliyyun hakim. Hamim, by the book that makes everything clear, meaning the Quran itself. We have established this as an Arabic recitation, an Arabic Quran, because that's what Quran means. It doesn't mean book. It means a recitation, a recital, a reading. An Arabic recitation in order that you might understand, might use your intellect. So in the first instance, that's addressed to the Arabs. Say, look, we're talking to you in Arabic, we want you to understand this. So we're revealing this recitation in Arabic for you. But there's an esoteric meaning there, which goes back to the very nature of the Arabic language itself. And maybe we'll come to that later in the questions, but I better not go there now. All three, the Theotokos, the mother of her father, the mother of revelation, all of these three are symbolic expressions at different ontological levels of one supra-cosmic archetype. An archetype that goes beyond the cosmos. It produces the cosmos and not just produces revelation or books or scriptures. Because it refers to the maternal womb, and I mentioned this earlier, the rahim, which is related to the word rahma. In fact, God, according to the prophets, God says himself in a statement which is not in the Quran, which is called a hadith qudsi, a holy utterance of God, in which he speaks in the first person through the tongue of the prophet. And God says, I have derived my name Ar-Rahman, my name the all-compassionate, the all-merciful, the all-loving. And here we have to note the resonance of love in the root of Rahma, which is there in the Hebrew, as Pai, I'm sure, will tell us. Arham Hai Adonai, one of the Psalms of David, says, I love thee, my Lord, using that Arham, the same root. He means I love. I'm not having mercy upon God. But David says, I love you, my Lord, in the Psalms. So this root in Aramaic and Hebrew, this Rahama, this root, has this meaning of love as well as compassion and mercy. And that's there in the background for Arabic speakers as well. So Ar-Rahman can be translated as the lovingly compassionate, the lovingly merciful. And God says, according to the prophet, I actually derive etymologically. I derive my own name, Ar-Rahman, which is arguably the most important name of Allah, of all the 99 names and all of the others that are not in the Quran. Ud'u Allah or Ud'u Rahman, call upon Allah or call upon Ar-Rahman, it says in the Quran, indicating that Rahman is the most suggestive, indicative name of God as regards his, her, its intrinsic nature. Rahman, loving, compassion, loving, mercy. So, I have derived my name Ar-Rahman from Ar-Rahim, from the womb. Explicitly there it is in the heart of the Islamic revelation that God says, I have derived my most important, most suggestive name, Ar-Rahman, from the womb of the woman. So this is the maternal archetype expressing itself from the sacred, from the divine feminine down into our human world. They are expressions at different ontological levels of one supra-cosmic archetype, the maternal womb, the rahim, which contains the seeds of both creation and revelation. And now, in my printout, I've chopped off the last part of this. One of the clearest expressions of this maternal...
Yeah, you can read from here.
Yeah. One of the clearest expressions of this maternal archetype is what is called in Hindu scriptures Hiranyagarbha, the golden womb. Hiranya is the golden, and the womb is garbha. According to one of the Puranas, the Manu Smriti, Brahma is the creator, the masculine form. Remember in Hinduism, and I'm glad that that Jason has returned to give us Mother India, as we talked about. The Hiranyagarbha in the Puranas is referred to as being the seed, the Brahma, not the absolute Brahma, which is neuter, but Brahma in the masculine is one of the Trimurti, one of the three manifestations of Ishvara, which is Brahma, Shiva, and Vishnu. So Brahma, the creator God, is said to have been in this, as a seed in this womb of Hiranyagarbha. So here you have the idea of the womb, golden womb. The whole of the creator God is there. So it's a kind of Theotokos we're talking about there. Not the mother of God, the absolute, but the mother of God, the Son. The mother of God, the creator. The mother of God, the second person of the Trinity. And that is distinct from God, the first person of the Trinity, the Father, the pure, inexpressible, inconceivable absolute, the Father as such. And I'm talking here more from an Orthodox point of view, I know, that from the Eastern Orthodox point of view, we cannot see the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit as three modalities, Sabellian modalism, and all the rest of it, of three aspects or divinities or whatever. We have to see the Father as the sole repository of the unity of the Godhead, and the Son and the Spirit as his two hands, to use an image of Saint Irenaeus. This is the Trinity. It's as if God is the Father, who is the body, and when he works with creation, he works with his Son and his Spirit. It's the same being, but these are the two hands that he uses to create. Anyway, so when we have this Hindu idea of Hiranyagarbha, the cosmic womb, where Brahma, the creator God, is even in that womb. So we're talking about the creative principle, what Fritjof Schuon calls the level of being as opposed to beyond being. We also have that in Eckhart, that when the persons work at the level of being, the Father, the Son, and the Spirit as persons are working at the level of being, but beyond being, there's no work to be done. There are no persons. There are no distinctive persons anymore in the essence, in the one, the ground, the ultimate Godhead from which we've all sprung. So we're talking about the level of being, the level of ontology, the level of whence flows the cosmos and existence, as opposed to beyond being, which is the essence, above and beyond all sonship or begetting. And Eckhart also says, at the level of the one there is no begetting and there is no begotten, almost echoing the Surah Al-Ikhlas, Surah number 112, the Surah of sincerity, or rendering pure, which says, as many of you may know, one of the most difficult surahs in the whole of the Quran when it comes to interfaith dialogue, because it says, Qul huwallahu ahad, say God is one, Allahu samad, he is the self-subsisting. Lam yalid wa lam yulad wa lam yakul lahu kufuwan ahad. He does not beget, he is not begotten, and there is nothing that can possibly resemble him. So it's a kind of explicit denunciation of the very essence of Christ as the Son of God, Christianity, being begotten, not created, but begotten is still the word, and that is what the Quran says God does not do. So it's difficult in terms of interfaith dialogue, but it's not insurmountable. We'll go into the metaphysics of that later, but let's carry on. According to the late scholar of Eastern Orthodox Christianity, James Cutsing, who I referred to earlier, died 2020, Theotokos is the most important of all the titles of the Blessed Virgin. This is a quote now from his excellent article, The Virgin in Sophia, Volume 6, Number 2, Winter 2000. It comes with the full weight of dogmatic tradition. Unlike such epithets of liturgical hymnody as Ark of the Covenant, Gate of Heaven, Celestial Ladder, Cause of the deification of men, which have the support merely of pious convention and traditional usage, this name, Theotokos, which was formerly bestowed on the Virgin by an ecumenical council, now I've put there in brackets, this is referring to the Third Council at Ephesus, which was against the Nestorian, quote, heresy. and as such, its acceptance is obligatory for all the faithful. So all Christians are, as it were, obliged to accept this title, Theotokos, however daring and elliptical and apparently blasphemous it may appear to certain understandings of religion and of the oneness of God. Historically, the title is a priori Christological, of course, having been promulgated in order to underscore the unity of the two natures in the single person of Christ. And yet the implications for an esoteric Mariology are obvious. So I don't think I need to elaborate upon that in the present company. We can maybe go into that, asking Bishop Anthony and Peter and Archbishop Kevin to help us to understand that, perhaps in the Q&A a bit better. So if we can go to the next slide, please. Mary is the protectress of what came after her, the glory of the earthborn, the adornment of all creation, the cause of what preceded her. Remember what we said about Fatima? She's the mother of her own father. It's exactly what Gregory Palamas is saying here about Mary, that she is the cause of what came before her, of her own father. She caused what preceded and caused her. Exactly the same as Fatima. Exactly the same paradox or inexpressibility. It's a like a koan, a Zen koan, that consider the sound of one hand clapping. Consider this woman who is the mother of her own father. You can't do it. The mind just breaks down. The mental carapace is cracked apart. Through the cracks, the light comes in. Who said that?
Leonard Cohen.
Who?
Is it Leonard Cohen?
Leonard Cohen.
Again.
I was waiting for Hyde to come and tell us that. We were talking about this last night, about Leonard Cohen and Bob Dylan. Actually, I think Bruce Springsteen. We've got another Jewish trinity. Bruce Springsteen is Jewish, isn't he? Anyway, two of the three were Jewish. Yeah, we've got a kind of trinity there. So, Mary is the protectress and of what came after her, the glory of the earthborn, the adornment of all creation, the cause of what preceded her, the head and consummation of all that is holy. So this description I'm saying of causal preceded, closely related to Fatima's epithet, mother of her father. So go to the next slide, please. The Recovery of Primordiality. This is St. Andrew of Crete, who I'd never heard of until I'd read this in Katzinger, which is also from his excellent article in Sophia on the Blessed Virgin. According to St. Andrew of Crete, when the mother of him who is beauty itself is born, our nature recovers in her person its ancient privileges. In Mary, we recover our birthright, our ancient privileges that we've lost through the fall. So when she was born, it's as if all of us now have access again to what we are by nature. And from that basis, we can go to what we might become through grace, what Jesus is by nature. So, is fashioned according to a perfect model, truly worthy of God. And this fashioning is a perfect restoration. This restoration, this is a brilliant series. This restoration is a divinization, and this divinization is an assimilation to the primordial state. What we heard earlier about the fitra, what we really are as human beings, but what we have lost through the fall, each and every single one of us. And that's why each and every single one of us needs revelation, needs religion, needs the rope from heaven. Whatever it may be, it is the way in which God reaches out to us and helps us to become what we are by nature, but what we have made degenerate through the fall. Each and every single one of us. And any one of us who says, well, I don't need religion because actually I know who I am. I've achieved self-realization. Yeah, I was about to launch into a sort of tirade against people who think that they're so spiritual and so realized as individuals that they don't need religion. They don't need a relegare. They don't need to be rebound once again to what they have been dissociated from. And so if such a person comes along, all I can say is either you're the greatest pretentious hypocrite of all time, or you're God himself. Anyway, this restoration is a divinization, and this divinization is an assimilation to the primordial state. That's what theosis, that's what deificatio is all about. A restoration to your primordial state, to you as you are made in the image of God, and even further than that, to you insofar as you are nothing but the self-manifestation, the tajalli, as Ibn Arabi would say, the self-manifestation of the divine haqiqah, the divine reality, the spiritual reality of God. So we'll go on to the next one. Primordiality of the heart. This is from Fritjof Schuon, who I couldn't help thinking if Michael is did we lose them for a bit?
No, we lost them for a little bit, but then we reconnected.
All right.
It's okay.
So when Michael said that René Girard is regarded by some of the Girardiens as having the answer to everything, and it means he has the answers to nothing, I couldn't help thinking about how I regard Fritjof Schuon and René Guénon and Martin Lings and Titus Burckhardt and the perennial philosophers who, I'm one of the very simplistic, if you like, followers of these great sages who believe that they do have the answers to everything. It's just that we don't necessarily understand them. And so my task is always to help people. When I quote Fritjof Schuon, is first of all to say, I don't understand everything that Schuon has said. I just feel in my heart that yes, he's got the answers to all the questions that I've ever had. So, the divine Maya, femininity in divinis, is not only that which projects and creates, it is also that which attracts and liberates. The Blessed Virgin, as sedes sapientiae, I think it's in a chapter called Sedes Sapientiae, which means the throne of wisdom, and is where the Blessed Virgin herself is understood to be identified with the throne of Solomon, the throne of wisdom, which descends towards us and which we too, whether we know it or not, bear in our very essence. It is precisely by virtue of this potentiality or virtuality that wisdom comes down upon us. This wisdom is either potentially within us as human beings or virtual. It's on its way to becoming actual. From potentiality to virtuality to actuality. This wisdom is potential or virtual within us, and it's for this reason that it can descend upon us in the form of the Blessed Virgin, in the form of Sophia, the Divine Lady, the Lady Wisdom. The immanent seat of wisdom is the heart of man. And this also relates to a saying of the prophets, that the heart of the human being, qalb al-insan, is the arsh ar-Rahman. The heart of the human being is the throne of God, defined as ar-Rahman again, the throne of the All-Merciful. It comes back to this idea. We can go to the next slide. The holiness of humanity. This is now, we're going into the perception of Mary from the Sufi point of view. Some great Sufis. Ruzbihan Bakri is one of the very greatest, and he is someone who, even William Chittick, to whose works we've made reference here in relation to Ibn Arabi, William Chittick would also agree that Ruzbihan Bakri prefigured many of the most fundamental perspectives of Ibn Arabi in his monumental work, the Ara'is al-Bayan, commentary on the Quran, but also in his other works, his treatises, especially on the metaphysics of beauty, which Corbin has translated, Abhar al-Ashiqeen, Henri Corbin has translated into French. I don't think there's an English translation of the jasmine, the flowers of the lovers, the Abhar al-Ashaqin, the jasmine, the flowers of the lovers. And Ruz Behan is one of the very greatest metaphysicians of the Islamic tradition, and arguably the greatest metaphysician of aesthetics, meaning the metaphysical meaning of beauty in the whole tradition. And he wrote this quite large commentary, a wonderful esoteric exegesis of the Quran. And in verse 16 of chapter 19, which is the chapter entitled Mary, and for those of you who don't know, we can go into that in the Q&A if Archetype doesn't come. We may have time to go into this chapter, which is absolutely marvelous in terms of helping non-Muslims understand the reason why Mary holds such an exalted rank in Islam, because of this chapter on her in the Quran and other things the Prophet has said, and we may come to that later. But anyway, Buckley says, on this verse in the chapter entitled Mary, and make mention of Mary in the scripture, وَاذْكُرْ فِي الْكِتَابِ Marian, when she withdrew from her people to a chamber looking east. وَاذْكُرْ فِي الْكِتَابِ مَرْيَمْ إِذْ انْتَبَذَتْ مِنْ أَهْلِهَا مَكَانًا شَرْقِيًّا. The chamber looking east. Buckley says, the true indication here, the ishara, what's being pointed to here, what's being hinted at, alluded to, suggested, mystically speaking, is that the substance of Mary, the Johar of Mariam, her very substance, is the substance of the primordial nature of human holiness. And there we have that word again. The fitra al-Qudus. The primordial human nature of Qudus, which is a quality relating to al-Qudus, which is one of the names of God, which means the all-holy. So the very substance of Mary, from this Sufi's point of view, basing himself on what the Quran is saying, is that this Marian substance is what reveals to us the primordial nature, our fitra, our primordial nature of intrinsic, immutable, inalienable holiness. That's what we are by nature, and that is what Mary manifests by her very being. So, and I've already given us the second part of it. What is the fitra? Quran 30:30, and I've already given you that verse. So I've added, theologians may debate the question whether Mary was a prophetess or not. In Islamic theology, exoteric scholars, they say, was she a nabiyya, a feminine nabi, a feminine prophet, or not? The majority say no, because to be a nabi you have to be a man. But this is a kind of, I would argue, an unimportant sideline to the main question, which is the spiritual understanding we can get of the Marian reality through the Quran and through the prism of Sufi exegesis on these verses. So for the Sufis, the question is immaterial. She was the perfect personification of the quintessential, immutable human nature, al-fitra. So, this is another aspect of what it means to be the perfect manifestation of the fitra, perfect human nature. What is it? It's perfect receptivity to the word. Kashani, another great Sufi, in the school of Ibn Arabi, he comments, and this is actually in a 2-volume commentary on the Quran, which was attributed for many centuries, I think, to Ibn Arabi because of the proximity of the perspective, because so much of what Kashani was saying was like Ibn Arabi. So they call it the Tafsir Ibn al-Arabi, but actually it's known to be by Abdul Razak al-Kashani, who was 100 years later, and in the school, in the lineage of Ibn Arabi. So he's commenting now on another verse relating to the Blessed Virgin. We breathed into her of our spirit. From our ruh. We breathed of our spirit into her. And he comments, what is taken into account is in worthiness for the charismatic gift from God, the karama, is virtue and faith, such as the chastity of Mary, which signifies her believing the words of her Lord and her obedience, which prepared her for the acceptance, qabul, receptivity, the same word where we get Kabbalah from. The receptivity to the word, which comes about through obedience, through faith, through virtue. These are the elements which calibrate your receptivity to the revelation of the Lord. Becoming a human being through obedience, through chastity, which implies perfect virtue and absolute faith, certainty. So this is what gives rise to her acceptance of the breath of the Spirit of God. She then was rendered receptive to this. The soul adorned by the excellence of abstention and chastity is a receptive. Now, chastity in Islamic terms is, I can't remember the Arabic word, it's not the same as in Christian context. It's about complete self-control, complete, what Michael referred to as the regulation of desire, is it, that Girard said religion is all about? The regulation of desire, the modulation of desire. It's all about that. It's all about self-control of this element that's called hawa in the Quran. Desire, the same thing as what the Buddha referred to as trishna or tanha in Pali. It's all about this thing that generates the seeds of suffering, your desire, your hawa. And it's that which in the Quran is referred to as the great idol of the ego. Do you see the one who takes as his God his own desire? That's the real inner idolatry. That's the kufr or the shirk khafi, the hidden idolatry, where you're following your own hawa, your own egotistical desire. So this is what he's referring to in terms of self-control. Al-Ghazali we referred to yesterday with Sister Jo. Sister Jo had an Al-Ghazali moment, not a senior moment, when she lost her capacity to speak. That's exactly what precipitated the crisis of Al-Ghazali, the greatest teacher of Islam, the greatest scholar, the greatest theologian, early 30s. People coming from all over the Muslim world to listen to the great man at his feet. And he stands up to speak and he can't say a word. God took from him his capacity to speak. And that precipitated his understanding that he had been a hypocrite all these years, becoming the great master of Baghdad, of the Abbasid Muslim dynasty, this world-conquering empire. What was he? A hypocrite. Why? Because he was preaching all of these wonderful divine things, but he was inwardly motivated by his own desire for fame and glory and reputation. So he was hit by God, and he went into a crisis, and he had to leave Baghdad, leave his people, become a wandering itinerant dervish. Just go off for 8 years and find God within, find sincerity, find the Marian receptivity to the word. Ikhlas, sincerity. Getting rid of hypocrisy and becoming more receptive. And that's why we call him the reviver of Islam, the mujaddid of his era, the one who brought Islam back to life through his volumes, Ihya Ulum ad-Din, the revival of the sciences of religion. He breathed sincerity, which is another word for Sufism. Sidq, the Kitab Sidq is one of the manuals of Sufism. It's all about sincerity. He breathed the spirit of Sufi sincerity back into the outward mechanical rites and so on of the religion, so that there was now a marriage between the Zahir and the Batin in the Ihya al-Din. So I'm very grateful to Sister Jo for sharing with us that Ghazali moment, and of coming back and talking to us so beautifully about Saint Teresa of Avila, when God gave you back the gift of speech. So I mentioned this, it came to my mind only because Al-Ghazali says in one of his writings that إِنَّمَا السَّعَادَةُ كُلُّهَا فِي أَنْ يَمْلِكَ الرَّجُلُ نَفْسَهُ. The totality of felicity resides in this, Total happiness is right here. Fi an yamlik ar-rajulu nafsahu is in this, that the human being should master his own soul. And the totality of wretchedness, of hell, resides in the opposite, that the man, the human being, should be mastered by his own ego. So here, this whole idea of chastity, of self-control, is mastery of self, dominion of self, which is the prerequisite, the prelude, the presentiment of transcendence of the self. That's what's being referred to in saying that we have to learn from Mary the meaning of obedience and, quote, chastity. It's about self-control, effa, complete control over the soul, over its desires. So it becomes a receptacle, again the word Kabbalah, Pabila, for the effusion, the of the Holy Spirit, and becoming pregnant with Jesus. And each of us can become pregnant with Jesus, which is what? The heart illumined by the light of the Spirit, believing in the words of the Lord and the wise tenets of divinely revealed religions, in the plural, note. And this is something which I perhaps should have said earlier, which is that part of being a believer in the religion of Islam, as it's expressed in the Holy Quran, if you want to say, I am a Muslim, what does that imply with regard to other religions? It implies that you have to believe in all of the other religions. And this is also in verse 48 of chapter number 5, where part of that verse says, we have revealed, it is a long verse, and even though I said to you I'd give you more of the actual words than Michael did, and I gave you the translation, I didn't mention this very principle, which is that in verse 48 of chapter number 5, the Quran refers to itself as a musaddiq and a muhaymin, as a confirmer and a muhaymin, a protector and a guardian, and a confirmer, a confirmation, musaddiq, same root as the one in Hebrew for the tasaddiq, the righteous human being. A musaddiq is that which confirms the truth. Muhaymin is that which protects and guards. And what is it that the Quran says it's confirming and protecting? All of the scriptures that were revealed before the Quran. So as a Muslim who believes in the revelation of the Quran, you have to believe in all the religions. And if you were to ask the question of a Muslim, what is it you believe? What's your creed? Where is your credo? You could refer to verse 85 of chapter 2, Surah Al-Baqarah, and say, آمن الرسول بما أنزل إليه من ربه والمؤمنون كل آمن بالله وملائكته وكتبه ورسله لا نفرق بين أحد من رسله. Every Muslim is supposed to say this as regards their credo. We, like the Prophet, we believe, like the Prophet does, in what was revealed to him, the Holy Quran. And all of us believe in God and His angels and His scriptural revelations and His prophets, His messengers. And then we're all supposed to say, لا نفرق بين أحد من رسله. We do not make any differentiation, distinction between any of God's messengers. It's not for us to say that one is better than another, according to the Quran. In the Muslim tradition, we refer to the Prophet as the greatest prophet, the greatest human being. But according to the Quran, we're not allowed to say who's better and who's not. We're saying, لا نفرق بين أحد من رسله. But it's up to God to say, in another verse, we have elevated some of the messengers above others. So there is a distinction in the divine hierarchy, but we don't know that. We just have to say, if we're believers of the Quranic revelation, This is what we believe in God, His angels, His prophets, His scriptures, and all of His messengers, and we don't distinguish between any of them. That is what it means to be a true believer in the Quranic revelation. And how few